be structured in 5 different segments. Now in segment 1, the candidates will get 60 seconds for an introduction. How long was that? 60 seconds, okay. In segment 2, the host organizations will have an opportunity to ask the candidates questions. Then in segment 3, it will consist of the candidates asking one other candidate a question. I'm looking forward to that part of the segment. I think that's going to be quite interesting. The responses are limited to 30 seconds and a 30-second rebuttal. Segment 4, we will take questions from the audience. Your turn to participate, followed by closing statements, both of which we're going to cap at 60 seconds. Candidates will receive a 30-second warning, followed by a 10-second warning, and then a stop sign. Now, if a member of the audience would like to ask a question, we're going to have some representatives walking around. They'll have a card. You can fill out one of those cards and return it to one of the representatives to make sure that we get it. But you can tweet it to @SaveMyVillage. One more time, you can tweet your question to @SaveMyVillage. Now please indicate if directed to a specific candidate or group. Throughout the night, we want you to use the hashtag #MyVillageProject on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And again, the hashtag is #MyVillageProject. And now we're going to get started with the introductions for this evening. And first we will start with Dr. Tony Cummings.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Tony Cummings. I'm a candidate for Sheriff of Duval County, 44-year native, 25-year law enforcement veteran, married with 2 daughters, 2 teenage daughters. I am a graduate of Nova Southeastern University, where I hold a doctoral degree in organizational leadership with a minor in conflict resolution, a master's degree in organizational management. I was a 2012 6 Pillars of Character Employee of the Year from Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. I'm a former supervisor of the U.S. Army, where I held the top secret clearance and a tour with the U.S. State Department. I'm also certified by the state of Florida in education leadership on all levels. I threw my hat in the ring back in 2013 to become your sheriff after being labeled the murder capital of the state of Florida. I have a robust plan to beat back crime, but I need your help. The public will be at the table when we're discussing decision-making ideas for safeguarding your neighborhood, and I'll get into that detail as we go further.
Very good. And now Mr. Jimmy Holderfield.
I'm Jimmy Holderfield, and I want to be your next sheriff. Look, I came up through the ranks. I've been on the patrol side or enforcement side, the corrections side, the human resource side, the investigative side of the sheriff's office. My last position was that of director of the Department of Corrections. I know the problems that our city faces. As a patrol zone commander out in Zone 5, dealing with the high crime areas, we actually saw a reduction with less officers. Put my 35 years of experience to work for you. In the community, I'm the past potentate of Morocco Shriners. I serve on the board of directors of Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Northeast Florida. It's about our children. It's about our elderly. It's about making Jacksonville a safer city. Jimmy Holderfield, I want to be your next sheriff.
Ken Jefferson.
Good evening. My name is Ken Jefferson. I was born and raised here in Jacksonville, attended public schools in Jacksonville, graduated from Reebok High School in 1975. I attended St. Thomas Christian University, where I hold a master's degree in theology as well as an honorary doctorate degree from the same institution. I'm also a graduate of Life Work Leadership as well as Leadership in Jacksonville. I've had the honor of serving you for over 24 years as a police officer within the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, mainly as a patrol cop, right with leading calls of service, and murder detective, sex crimes detective, administrative detective, police recruiter. Gosh, that 30 seconds is out. and so on and so forth, spokesman, as well as a federal program coordinator. I'm running for sheriff, and I want to be your sheriff simply because I want to change the complexion of how we do law enforcement here in Jacksonville. Our kids are lying on the street with pools of blood, and we're talking so much about the budget, but forgetting about the kids that's lying on the street. I want to be your sheriff. My name is Ken Jefferson.
Lonnie McDonald.
Good evening. My name is Lonnie McDonald, Kansas Sheriff. A little about myself. Born and raised in Jacksonville, went to Bishop Kenny High School, then went to Florida State University. I graduated, came home to Jacksonville Sheriff's Office and worked for 31 and a half years. And during that time, I worked in every division within the agency, the rank of Assistant Chief, Patrol Commander, and Special Rescue. While at the Sheriff's Office, I had the opportunity to attend the FBI National Academy, DEA Drug Commanders Academy, and the Secret Service Military Protection Training in Washington. The only candidate in the history of the department selected by the FBI to travel around the entire nation and evaluate violent crimes throughout the entire nation for 6 months with the FBI. After retiring in June of 2011, I had an opportunity to serve my country, and I went to Afghanistan for 2 tours in Afghanistan and worked as a law enforcement professional, worked with the military, tracking some of the service military people in Afghanistan. I hope to bring that experience back to you. Thank you.
Mike Williams.
Hey, good evening. My name is Mike Williams. I'll cut some of this short. I know I'm going to touch on it in the questions, but I started my career with JSO in 1991 and started like everybody does as a line-level patrol officer working in the northwest part of the city. And over the course of the next 23 years, I served at every supervisory level in the agency. I ended my career last August. Campaigned full-time as the number 3 person in the agency, and in that position, I had command of 1,100 police officers every day, and about half of the sheriff's $400 million budget. I believe firmly Sheriff Rutherford has done a good job for this community in the last 12 years. However, we've got new challenges and new things to work on moving forward. We have a violent crime problem in Jacksonville that is driven by the drug trade that we absolutely have to get ahead of. We have to continue to build and strengthen relationships in every part of our community. There's not a law enforcement agency in the country that can be successful unless it has the support of its community. And lastly, we do have to keep an eye on our budget. We've got to live with what the taxpayers give us, work within that, be lean and efficient, and I promise you that we'll work on that every day. My name is Mike Williams. I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
And now Representative for Jay Farhat.
Thank you. My name is Rob Beers. I've been a police officer for about 23 years. I'd like to apologize for Jay not being here. He had a death to a family friend, and he's in a funeral in Gainesville. When this first started about a year ago, people asked me, why are you helping Jay with his campaign? And it's real easy, because he's been my friend for 23 years, and he asked me to do him a favor. But then I tell him why I'm voting for Jay. And the reason I'm voting for Jay is because Jay Farhat is the most ethical person I know. He has the highest level of integrity of the people I know. And that's pretty high standard because everyone I know is a police officer. All my friends are police officers or family police officers. And I know a lot of the guys here in the department. But I would put Jay's ethics and his integrity up alongside anybody. And if you're going to be the head of a law enforcement organization, that has to come first. So take that in consideration when you're voting for a candidate, and take in consideration their ethics and their integrity. And I'll back here with the Jay Farhat on the Jay Farhat table. If you want to come back and get some information, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Well, as I stated a little earlier, this event was organized by several community organizations that serve the African American community. And these organizations include First Coast National Pan-Hellenic Council, 100 Black Men of Jacksonville, Jacksonville Urban League, Jacksonville branch of the NAACP, Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Jacksonville Chapter, National Association of Black Engineers, D.W. Perkins Bar Association, National Council of Negro Women, Mentoring Families and Kids, Team Leaders of America. Now, each of these organizations will ask a question,
But before we get started, I would like to introduce you to my co-host and moderator for this evening, Dr. Irvin Pedro Cohen, Executive Director for the Newtown Success Zone, a community collaborative with the goal of building a continuum of care for young people and their families living in the Newtown and the College Garden area of Jacksonville.
Thank you, Don. So you guys get the pleasure of me asking the first question. So I will ask that you keep the rules that were read to you earlier by Don in mind as we get started with the questions and your answers. So the first question comes from the My Village Voice Project. And it says, if elected, what specific changes will you make within your first 90 days that will be immediately noticeable to citizens in the African American community? And we'll start with Mr. Holyfield.
Well, thank you. First 90 days, immediately, a change up in the administration. We're going to reduce it by 20%. Right now, the sheriff has 38 appointments from sheriff or undersheriff down to assistant chief, but it don't look like the community. I'm here to tell you, everyone can't look like me sitting on the third floor of the police administration. You will see a direct change. You look at my campaign staff who's in the back of the room, it looks like Jacksonville. It looks like Jacksonville, and we've got to do that in order to make sure that we don't have another situation like Ferguson. So it starts at the top. Recruiting would be the second issue to bring more African-American officers on board, and I've already talked to Nat Glover over a program that we can do exactly that.
I probably agree with my colleague. I would reorganize the agency. Very, very top head as it stands right now. The agency will resemble the community that it serves. The second thing that I would do is assign a MOU, the very first day in office, leaving the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office from all police-involved shootings and giving it to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Thirdly, I would impound a citizens review council, strictly for the sake of advising, citizens advisory council, simply for the sake of advising the sheriff and his officers and his immediate staff how we can better serve you in the community. There will be our extra eyes, our extra ears on things that don't necessarily come to the sheriff's office. Thank you very much.
I think this will sound like a broken record to some people, but I think the first day when I get off will be a top-down review of the agency. The agency's got to reflect our community across the board. You have to reflect the community that you serve, and it starts at the top, and that's how you recruit. Additionally, I just recently attended a seminar on Channel 7 with a race in River City. And I don't know if anybody was there, but I went there as a citizen, not as a sheriff's camp, to hear some what's going on in the city. What do people feel like? What do people think? And people have to leave their egos at the door and listen to what the other people's feelings are. And from the first day, that's what I'll do. And that will reflect in the agency.
Well, as everybody has mentioned, obviously there's going to be a change in the administration on day one. I think we can all agree on that. I can tell you on day one, the first thing that I plan on doing is challenging a court decision that was levied upon us, where we lost. We were sued by our union and we lost that court decision, closing our response to resistance or our use of force process to the public. Right now, we have an officer-involved shooting. It could be up to 9 months before there's a response from our agency because we're not allowed to share that information with the community. All those boards are closed. My first step on day one is to challenge that court decision and have those cases opened up so the community can be part of the process again as they were, again, before the boards were closed. That's a big step for us in building trust in our community. We've got to do that. As I said before, we cannot be successful unless we have the support of our community, and we're going to work on that from day one.
Day one, folks, I will convene a committee put together a civilian review and accountability board to put the public back in charge of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office for the first time in its history. Second, I will expand the size of the Community Affairs Division to ensure that we do those positive outreach operations to those areas of Jacksonville that have been hard to hit by crime. And for those of you that would like to see our children not locked up and the key thrown away, we're going to increase the number of civil citations from the 33% issuance to 70 to 75%. Give them a second chance. Four. We're going to reorganize the organization's manpower. That $398 million that you spend in tax dollars, it goes to 85% manpower in human capital. What you do with that human capital is very, very important. And it's going to be a serious restructuring of that manpower. And finally, the sheriff's office should mirror the community that it serves. You're a sheriff, as your sheriff, I will ensure that minority recruitment is increased to make sure that the sheriff's office mirrors the diversity of the community. Thank you.
Now, our next question will come from the First Coast National Athletic Council, and that question will start with Ken Jefferson.
Good afternoon, panel. My name is Henry Rivers, president of the Oneida South Phi Fraternity Incorporated here in Jacksonville, Florida. Also a member of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, where I served as a patrol officer in the Zone 1 subsection for the past 6 years. My question is, each of you have an established party affiliation. Given that a party affiliation, how will the principles of your party guide you in the governance of the Sheriff's Office?
Thank you, sir, and that's a great question. I do have a party affiliation. I have to be beside my name, Democrat. However, being the sheriff, it's not about the party. It's about the person. You need to, and I would implore everyone to listen to the answers that's coming here tonight and the questions, regardless of party affiliation, because that absolutely has nothing to do with it. A Democrat knows how to be fiscally conservative. A Democrat knows how to do what a Republican does, and all Democrats aren't your friend, and all Republicans aren't your enemy. So the party for me would have no bearing on it, simply because I want to govern the Sheriff's Office according to what's right. I want to govern the Sheriff's Office according to what's fair. I want all the people and the citizens in Duval County to know that they have a sheriff that they can trust, they can believe in, that's transparent, and is going to do the right thing. Thank you.
This party needs no one, everybody's the same way. Party affiliation, the sheriff's race makes no difference because we're bound by the laws and the people we serve and protect, and there's no discretion in that. So there shouldn't even really be in this race any party affiliation because it makes no difference. We're all in this together to serve the community, bound by the laws that we are sworn to uphold. So pretty basically, there is no real party affiliation in this.
Thank you for the question. To answer the question directly, I am a Republican, and if I had to pull something from a party affiliation, what would I want to share that will impact my administration? It would be being a fiscal conservative, I think, or fiscal conservative. So we'll work toward that every day. I mean, I think it's important for us to move forward in our budget process, to be transparent, and to be very lean and efficient with the tax dollars that you give us. But I would also agree that as sheriff, it's not about party affiliation. You represent everyone in the community equally, and you enforce all the laws in the community. And I think you'll hear that from many of the candidates here tonight, and I think it's the truth.
As it currently stands, the Sheriff's Office is headed by a Republican. The State Attorney's Office is headed by a Republican. The importance of introducing those civil review and accountability panels is to bring Republicans.
Use the microphone.
Okay. To bring those Republicans, Democrats, and Independents to the table from the onset, at the beginning, when we make these decisions that impact your tax dollars. Because just because I have a D on the side of my name don't mean that I'm going to follow through with all these initiatives unless, guess what? You're at the table and you say, wait a minute, Dr. Cummings, you said that you're going to do this from day one. Let's see some action. We have to start holding our elected officials accountable. That's the purpose of providing the public a seat at the table, and it's long overdue, folks.
Thank you. You know, party affiliation at the local level, whether it be the sheriff, the mayor, the state attorney, the tax collector, the property appraiser, you name it, really, it should not be a D or a R or an MP. Well, actually, there should be no party affiliation. I am a conservative. I've got a track record of saving your tax dollars. I would have opposed trying to propose to you to bring 40 additional officers on the street when we've got a $400 million budget that we can repurpose people to put out on the street. But also know of all these other candidates, I'm the only one that ran the substance abuse treatment programs, the educational programs, and all of the other incentives that we had for folks that were incarcerated within the criminal justice system here in Jacksonville.
The next question comes from the 100 Black Men of Jacksonville.
Thanks, Pedro. Good evening. My name is Charles Riggs, the president of 100 Black Men of Jacksonville. And thank you for being here this evening. Our main concern, our main interest as it relates to the 100 is opportunities to reduce the endangerment of African American males. What we would like to know is what would you do as a policy to increase engagement and reduce incarceration for African American males this year? Thank you.
You'll say about me the rest of the hour so I can explain that answer for you? That's a good question. It starts with training. I mean, from day one you have to train and you have to engage the community. And it's not just, I count these things to become, what the police going to do? Well, it's a community effort. The police has to coordinate with the community. Mentoring programs, crime prevention programs that are so effective. Engage in the civil citation, maximize the use of that so that we can help our youth and invest in them in the future. We have to sit down at the table from day one in our communities. And like I said earlier, you check your egos at the door. And don't be afraid to hear things that might not be as we all perceive. Whether us, and we can explain things and hear things back from the community. So that's from day one, and it's a long process. I would love to sit down and talk to you about it. Crime prevention from day one, citations, education.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Mr. Williams.
When you talk about fighting crime in any community, there's three pieces of that puzzle: prevention, intervention, and punishment. It's all equally important. So from a law enforcement standpoint, obviously you hear a lot from us on the enforcement end of the table. But you cannot enforce your way out of some of the issues that we have in our community today. You've got to have the prevention issues on the front covered. You've got to have after-school programs. You've got to have things to engage the youth. You have to do that. As they come through the ranks, if they make a mistake, and there's an opportunity to issue a juvenile citation, I'm all for it. I think we should maximize the use of those citations. I think on the back end, when an individual has gone to prison and served his time and comes back into our community, we've got to give that individual a chance. He served his time. You can't leave him at the bus station with $50 in his pocket and his khaki pants on and his Crocs. You can't do it. So we've got people here in town that do that, nonprofits that do that. We need to partner with them. We need to crank the Jacksonville Journey back up, fund that program, have some great oversight there, and work the equation from every angle. If we work the equation from every angle, we are working toward long-term solutions in our community and not solutions that go beyond one mayor and one sheriff, and we can have some success. Thank you.
That will be the purpose of expanding the size of the community affairs division. There are hundreds of programs out there, PAL, I'm sorry, this voice, I apologize, but PAL, to neighborhood watch programs, to DARE programs, and so on and so forth. The issue is not the programs. The city's at a $50 million budget, that's a fact. But there are a lot of private organizations out there, faith-based organizations that just simply need a platform to launch their ideas. Real ideas that work for you, they're never heard. Why? Because there's no seat at the table. So if I increase the size of the Community Affairs Division to allow those people with great ideas in those nonprofit organizations to have a secure platform by which to launch it, then of course we have a sustained outreach in those hardest hit areas and we can make a difference. So that's the key to actually offering safe neighborhoods. Okay, I have 10 seconds left. Expand the size of the Community Affairs. We don't need to expand the SWAT team. We don't need to expand, we don't need to clock in and chase people in neighborhoods. We need to expand the size of the Community Affairs Division.
Well, the question is, what do we do to reduce engagement and reduce incarceration? I can speak to this with great clarity. One, we need to change what our training tactics are for modern policing. When I came on 35 years ago, the training has not changed much in that 35 years. People are different from us. We need to understand that. What I saw also as the director of the Department of Corrections was the number of black and white males that are arrested by patrol or detectives for charges that are later dropped. Where you should be outraged is why it takes longer for those charges to be diminished or dropped when it's an African American male. And that all boils down to the tactics used in patrol and the decisions made with the state attorney's office.
Thank you. We have to be proactive. We have to get our kids when they're young, when they're impressionable, between the ages of 9 and 12. We've got to partner with certain entities, the faith-based community, the business community, our key stakeholders, as well as our parents. And we've got to come together with other entities like the 100 Black Men, Operation Save Our Sons, Project SOS, as well as the Justice Coalition, all of which, except for one, I serve on those boards. And we're currently doing some things to prevent this sort of behavior. When we get them together, we get together with these entities, we've got to teach them how to resolve conflict without a final resolution. We've got to teach them how to respect authority. We've got to teach them how to have values. We've got to teach them how to set goals. When we come together and we teach and train our children, we won't have being proactive, we won't have issues and problems that we're having now. We've lost a generation. The generation that we lost are the ones that's lying in the pool of blood on the streets, being killed by the ones late teens, early 20s. We've got to get them at an early age. And as your sheriff, I will mentor one young person my entire time in office, as well as my senior staff for the entire time that I'm in office, teach them those values.
Our next question will come from the SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Jacksonville chapter.
Good evening. My name is Dennis Wade. I'm a past Human Rights Commissioner. I chaired the Police and Community Relations Committee. What I'd like to tell you is that I have a question for you, but before I ask the question, number one, the police panel and advisory boards, being advisory boards, will not work in Jacksonville, will not work in Florida, simply because they will have no subpoena power. In other words, the police will never have to come and answer any of your questions. So that's an exercise in mental masturbation, if you want to get right down to it. Now, in 2002, the JCCI gave a report out on improving race relations. That was in 2002, and one of the things they came up with was that 40% of the traffic violations were committed by African Americans. Now, in 2004 and 2008, they did a survey. Okay. All right. The question is, I want to preface the question because it's kind of difficult, and I know it would be, and I want to preface it for you. In 2004 to 2008, JCCI did a survey, and they said that 88% of African Americans did not trust the police to treat them fairly. 88%. Nothing was done about that, even though we had a black sheriff. My question is to these potential sheriffs: What was your area of command when those verdicts were carried out and passed down? What was your area of command and what was your personal response? What was your area of command's response and what was your personal response to that survey? 2004 and 2008.
So, I'm sorry, give me the dates one more time.
2004 and 2008.
2004 and 2008.
2004 and 2008. So in 2004 to 2008, first of all, let me say this. To the trust issue, everything we do in our organization has got to work to build trust in the community. As I mentioned before, you cannot be successful as a law enforcement organization, not just in Jacksonville, but anywhere in the country, unless you work on build trust and have support. You have to do that. In 2004 to 2008, I was a lieutenant in what we call a tactical support unit. In that section, I commanded a newly created gang investigation unit, a gun crime unit, and several of the specialty teams, SWAT team, bomb squad, dive team, during that window of time. Does that answer you? What was the other part of the question? I'm sorry. That was it? Thank you.
If I may, folks, let me revisit this issue of civilian review boards and accountability panels. Just because it's difficult to do doesn't mean you should not do it. Okay? It's not, the union's going to fight with tooth and nail this year to avoid civilian review boards, but if you look at the research across the country, when a civilian review board is in place, police-related shootings go down. Okay? Excessive force go down. We're going to fight to get the public a seat at the table. That's what Dr. Cummings is all about, is getting you a seat at the table. Well, I was in the Missing Persons Division doing that study, and I can tell you firsthand